Have you ever looked around your home and realized there's no one left to call? No best friend to share the small joys of your morning coffee. No one checking in, not because they have to, but because they care. No shoulder to lean on when life feels heavier than usual. You're not alone in that feeling. One of the quietest and most painful truths I've seen in my decades of work with older adults, especially women, is this. Aging doesn't just bring physical changes, it brings an emotional silence that settles in the heart, far deeper than the silence in the room. In today's video, I want to talk to you, not as a doctor, but as someone who has sat beside many women in their 70s, 80s, even 90s, who once had full lives, rich in friendship, connection, laughter, and now find themselves wondering when it all quietly slipped away. We'll meet Linda. She's 71. She thought retirement would be peaceful, but no one told her it could also be so painfully quiet. This isn't just about loneliness. It's about identity, happiness, even physical health. And if you stay with me, I'll show you not only how thousands of women are reclaiming their connection, but why it's not too late for you. Before we begin, if any part of this touches something inside you, would you do me a small favor? Comment a 1 below to let me know you're here, that you're listening. Because this conversation isn't just about facts. It's about reminding you are not broken, you are not forgotten, and you are never, ever truly alone. Let's begin. The hidden loss no one warns you about. When we talk about aging, we usually focus on the obvious things, the slower steps, the gray hair, the more frequent doctor appointments. And to be fair, those are changes we prepare for. Society talks about them, books are written about them, and doctors, like me, explain them with checklists and medical plans. But there's something else, something quieter, more invisible, but just as real. And sadly, most women don't see it coming until it's already there. The fading of friendships. It doesn't happen in one loud, dramatic moment. There's no announcement, no warning sign. It's more like a slow drift. One day you realize your phone hasn't buzzed in a week. The Saturday brunches that used to fill your weekends, they've disappeared. Your closest neighbor moved in with her daughter across the country. Your best friend now spends most of her days in assisted living, and the conversations have grown shorter, fewer. You're not angry, just surprised. How did something so rich, so steady, just fade? This is the kind of loss no one teaches us how to grieve. It's not like losing a house or a job. It's even not like losing a spouse. It's the quiet erosion of your social world. The tapestry of voices, laughter, inside jokes, shared tears slowly unravels, leaving behind long stretches of silence. Let me tell you about Linda. She's 68, a retired nurse. After years of hard work, she finally bought a small home in a peaceful town. The garden is lovely. The view is calming. She has everything she thought she needed. But what Linda wasn't prepared for was the loneliness. That first winter, she noticed something. Her days were getting quieter. Not peaceful quiet, but empty quiet. No more spontaneous visits from old friends. No texts asking if she wanted to grab a coffee. No one to call at night just to say, "Guess what happened today?" Her house was filled with furniture, but it felt hollow. And the silence wasn't just in the air, it was in her chest, a soft ache she couldn't name. She told me, "I have time now, but no one to share it with." That is what I call invisible grief, the kind no one sees, but it weighs just as much as any other loss. And for many older women, it becomes the defining pain of this chapter of life. You see, we've been taught to expect less from connection as we get older. People say, be content with what you have. A monthly lunch with family, a few volunteer hours, a quiet hobby. But those things don't fill the same space that deep, true friendships once held. The friendships where you felt known, where you didn't have to explain yourself, where someone remembered your laugh, your worries, your story. Science is clear on this. Friendship is not just a luxury, it's a vital part of mental and physical health. According to the National Institute on Aging and Harvard Medical School, women with strong social connections are not only less likely to experience depression, but also enjoy better cognitive function, lower blood pressure, stronger immune systems, even longer lifespans. But emotionally, the impact runs deeper than any lab result. A good friend reminds you that you still matter, that you still have value even when the world seems to move past you. Without that mirror, without someone to reflect your worth, life can begin to feel dim. And that dimness doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's not just getting old. It's simply the human need for connection. And here's the truth. If you've been feeling this way, you're not alone. You're not broken. And you are never, ever truly alone. Because while friendships can fade, they can also return, sometimes in unexpected ways. In the next section, we'll talk about how loneliness affects the body and mind, quietly but powerfully, and how to recognize the signs before they take hold. So stay with me, and if any part of Linda's story sounds like yours, just know this conversation is for you.
Loneliness as a silent health crisis. Let's talk about something most people don't realize. Loneliness isn't just sad, it's dangerous. I've worked with older women for decades, and time and again, I've seen a pattern. They don't come in complaining of loneliness. They come in saying things like, "I just don't feel like getting out of bed anymore. My memory's been off lately. I'm tired, and I don't know why." And when we gently peel back the layers, what we find is something quieter, but deeply powerful: social isolation. Let me be clear. Loneliness isn't about how many people you know. It's about how connected you feel to the people around you. You can be surrounded by others, neighbors, family, even caregivers, and still feel profoundly alone. And here's the startling truth. According to the Surgeon General of the United States, chronic loneliness increases the risk of premature death by nearly 30%. That's on par with smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's more dangerous than obesity, more destructive than a sedentary lifestyle. How does that happen? Well, the human body wasn't built to exist in emotional isolation. We're wired for connection, from our nervous system to our immune response. When we're deeply alone, our body responds as if we're in danger. Stress hormones like cortisol stay elevated. Inflammation increases. Sleep becomes restless. Appetite changes. The immune system weakens. Even the brain begins to lose sharpness over time. Let's go back to Linda for a moment. 6 months after moving into her new home, Linda started noticing changes. She misplaced her keys more often, forgot her doctor's appointments, felt slower, foggier, even though her lab results were fine. And here's what I told her. Linda, your brain isn't broken. It's just lonely. Loneliness doesn't show up on an X-ray. It doesn't raise a red flag on your blood work. But it quietly chips away at everything: your memory, your motivation, your desire to participate in life. This isn't just emotional, it's biological. A study from the University of California found that seniors with low social interaction were twice as likely to develop dementia. Others report a 64% higher risk of heart disease. Even bone density and wound healing slow down. And yet, this epidemic is invisible. Because unlike a fever or a cough, loneliness doesn't cry out for help. It just settles in, quietly, until it becomes the new normal. What's worse? Many women blame themselves. They tell me, maybe I'm just not fun anymore. I don't want to bother anyone. It's too late to make new friends now. But here's what I want to say to you, from one human to another. You didn't cause this. You don't deserve this. And you absolutely have the power to change it. Connection doesn't require a dozen people. Sometimes it's just one voice that makes the difference. A neighbor who says, "How are you?" and really waits for the answer. A walking buddy who shows up every Tuesday. Even a pet. Yes, studies show that the presence of a dog or cat can reduce loneliness significantly. You don't need to be the life of the party. You just need to feel seen, heard, valued. And if you haven't felt that way in a while, I want to invite you, gently, to start paying attention, not to what's missing, but to what could begin. Because the most powerful truth I've learned as a doctor is this: loneliness isn't permanent, but it won't fix itself. You have to take one small step, and that step can be simple. Say hello to someone new. Join a group, even if it's virtual. Send a message to a friend you haven't spoken to in years. The path back to connection isn't paved with grand gestures. It starts with tiny moments of courage. In the next section, we'll talk about why friendships fade after 60 and exactly what you can do to gently, lovingly bring them back into your life. But for now, if you've made it this far in the video, I want you to know this: you are not alone. Your heart still matters, and you're already on your way back to something beautiful, simply by listening.
Why friendships fade after 60, and what you can do about it. If you're wondering why friendships don't feel the same anymore, why the people who used to fill your days are now just distant names in your phone, let me tell you something you may need to hear. It's not your fault. The truth is, friendships don't usually end in a big argument. They fade, quietly, gradually. And most of the time, it has nothing to do with anything you did wrong. Let's take a closer look at what really happens after 60. Because once you understand why things have changed, it becomes much easier to reclaim the connections you deserve. Life transitions quietly reshape your social circle. Retirement sounds like freedom, and it is, but it also takes away one of the biggest sources of daily interaction: work. You no longer see your coworkers every day. No more casual hallway chats, no more shared coffee breaks. And even if those relationships weren't deep, they gave you rhythm, structure, presence. Then the kids grow up. You're no longer coordinating carpools, planning birthday parties, or hosting sleepovers. Suddenly, the house gets very quiet and stays that way. Then come the relocations, yours or theirs. A move to a smaller home, or closer to the kids, or into a senior community. All those familiar faces from your old neighborhood, now they're postcards, not people. And sometimes, the deepest cut: loss. You lose your spouse, your closest friend, the person who knew your story from the beginning. Each of these changes might seem small on its own, but together they create a profound shift. Why this loss goes unnoticed? Here's the hard part. Our culture doesn't talk about this kind of grief. There's no ceremony for losing your social circle. No one brings over casseroles when the lunch group stops calling. And so many women internalize it. They say, maybe I'm not interesting anymore. I should be grateful. I have my health. Everyone's busy. I don't want to be a burden. But none of that is true. What's true is that you've lived through massive changes. And like any change, they leave marks. But here's the other truth. You can start again. Not like in your 20s, not by accident, but with intention. So what can you do? 1. Begin by noticing. Pay attention to how you feel after a conversation. Who lights you up? Who drains you? Connection doesn't have to be frequent. It has to be real. 2. Be the one who reaches out. I know, it's scary. What if they don't respond? What if it's awkward? But what if they've been feeling the same way? What if your call is the one that changes their day? 3. Start small. Don't think you have to build a whole circle right away. Say yes to one invitation. Join one group. Smile at one neighbor you usually pass by. 4. Look for shared rhythm. The best connections in this stage of life don't come from shared age or background. They come from shared rhythm. Maybe it's a morning walking group, a writing class, a gardening club, a book discussion at the library, or even a virtual Zoom session with people across the country. The how matters less than the why. You're doing it to feel seen again and to see others too. Real-life courage. The story of Ruth. Let me share the story of Ruth, one of my former patients. She's 75, widowed. She hadn't had a real conversation in weeks until she joined a watercolor class at her community center. She almost didn't go. She told me, I haven't painted since high school. I'll look silly. But she went. And that day, she met Alice. They didn't bond right away, but over a few classes, between quiet brushstrokes and shared laughter about shaky hands, they began talking. 6 months later, they're inseparable. They paint, they swap soup recipes, they go on bus trips together. Alice calls Ruth her gift from life's second act. All it took was one step, one small act of courage. If you're sitting here wondering where to begin, try this. Think of one person you used to enjoy. Send a short message. You crossed my mind today. How are you? That's it. In the next section, we'll gently dismantle the myth that you're too old to make new friends and show you why this chapter, yes, this very one, might hold your richest relationships yet. But for now, please hear this. Your desire for friendship is not childish. It's not desperate. It's human. And it's never too late to begin again. The truth about starting over. Let's be honest. Somewhere along the way, many women start to believe a quiet lie. It's too late for me to make new friends. I've heard it 100 times, from women who've raised families, built careers, overcome illness, survived loss, women who've weathered more storms than most people ever see. And yet, when it comes to starting over, they whisper, I wouldn't even know how. I'm not the same as I used to be. People already have their lives. I'd just be intruding. But let me tell you the truth. Not the one fear whispers in the dark, the truth that science, experience, and the human heart all agree on. You're not too old, you're not too late, and your story isn't over. In fact, for many women, the most meaningful friendships, the ones built on depth, authenticity, and soul-level connection, don't come until after 60. Why? Because by now, you've lived. You've stopped pretending, you know who you are, and you're not interested in shallow connections or social climbing or impressing anyone. You want something real. And that longing, that clarity, it's not a weakness, it's your superpower. Older friendships come with deeper roots.
Unlike in youth, where friendships often form out of convenience or proximity, later life connections grow out of something more powerful: choice. You get to choose the people who understand your humor, who listen without fixing, who've lived enough to know that tears and laughter often come in the same sentence. You don't need 20 friends. You need 2, maybe 1. Someone you can call when you're scared. Someone who says, "I've been there," instead of, "Why don't you just cheer up?" Let's go back to Linda. You remember Linda, our friend from earlier. For months after her move, she felt invisible. No invitations, no one checking in, just long afternoons and quiet meals. But one Tuesday afternoon, she did something small and brave. She walked into the public library and signed up for a memoir writing workshop. She almost didn't go back. She told me, "I sat in the car for 10 minutes, thinking, what am I doing here?" But she went in. And in that quiet, fluorescent-lit room, she met 6 other women, all in their 60s and 70s, all with stories, scars, wisdom, humor. They wrote, they cried, they laughed. Week by week, those strangers became her people. They now meet every Thursday, even outside the library. Linda says, "It didn't just give me friends, it gave me back a piece of myself." That's the power of showing up, not perfectly, just honestly. So how do you begin again? You begin like this. 1. Start where you are. Look around. Is there a class, a workshop, a local event? Even one that sounds a little outside your comfort zone. That's often the one to try. 2. Lead with curiosity, not pressure. You're not auditioning, you're connecting. Ask questions, be curious, listen. People are often hungrier for connection than they appear. 3. Embrace the slow build. Some friendships spark immediately, others grow over weeks, even months. Trust the process, don't rush it. 4. Let go of the myth of being a burden. You are not taking up space, you are space. A conversation with you might be exactly what someone else has been craving too. One connection can change everything. You don't need to fix your whole social life overnight. You just need one open door. One neighbor who smiles when you pass. One volunteer coordinator who remembers your name. One woman in the knitting circle who says, "Want to grab coffee after next week's meeting?" It starts there. And let me say this clearly, just in case no one has told you in a while, you still have something to offer. Your presence matters. Your story matters. You are not done. In the next section, we'll talk about something equally important. What if you don't want or can't have close friendships anymore? Can you still be happy? Can you still feel whole? The answer is yes. And the how may surprise you. Happiness without friends, redefining joy in later life. Let me ask you something gently, with no judgment. What if you don't want to build a new circle of friends? What if your body's tired or your heart's not ready? What if the thought of making small talk or going to social gatherings feels more draining than fulfilling? Here's what I want to say to you, clearly and compassionately. That's okay. Yes, friendships can be healing, but happiness? Happiness is not a one-size-fits-all formula. And no, you don't need a packed calendar, a bestie, or constant social plans to live a life that is meaningful, rich, and joyful. Joy can take quieter forms. For many women in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, something beautiful begins to unfold. The quiet becomes less empty and more sacred. Some rediscover passions they set aside for decades, writing poetry by the window with a cup of tea, digging their hands into the soil of a small garden, taking long walks, not to arrive anywhere, but simply to breathe. Or others turn inward, into reflection, creativity, or spirituality, Prayer, meditation, journaling, reading stories that mirror their own selves, or just sitting in stillness and watching the trees dance in the wind. These women don't chase busy schedules, they embrace presence, and from that presence comes peace. You see, when the world gets quieter, the soul gets louder, and for some, that's when true healing begins. Wholeness doesn't require an audience. If you're someone who enjoys solitude or finds companionship in your routines, your faith, or even a beloved pet, that's not loneliness, that's alignment. And no one has the right to tell you it's not enough. Some women I know find purpose in writing letters to their grandchildren, caring for a rescue cat, mentoring a younger woman at church, or just waking up each morning and making themselves a beautiful breakfast because they are worth it. These aren't grand gestures, but they are acts of self-honoring, and they matter. If you've ever wondered, is this all there is? Here's my answer. No, there's more. More depth, more meaning, more to you than what others can see or measure. But sometimes that more doesn't come from connection with others. It comes from reconnection with yourself. Later life offers something rare in this world: time. Time to return to yourself, not as a mother, a wife, a nurse, a helper, but as a woman, a soul, a person with thoughts, desires, dreams, memories. You've given so much of yourself to others for years, maybe decades. This part of your life, it doesn't have to be about filling rooms. It can be about filling you. Solitude versus loneliness. Know the difference. Loneliness is the pain of not being seen. Solitude is the peace of being enough. One is a wound, the other is a choice, and you have the wisdom now to know which one you're feeling. If it's loneliness, I hope earlier parts of this video have shown you how to gently rebuild connection. But if it's solitude, I hope you honor it. I hope you stop apologizing for not being more social. I hope you recognize that making space for yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. And if you ever want more connection, more community, more closeness, it's always there, waiting for you. But you're not less than for being okay on your own. The most important truth: there is no expiration date on joy. There is no right or wrong way to grow older. And there is absolutely no shame in choosing peace, privacy, or personal rhythm over the noise of the world. So whether you find your joy in a crowded room or in the quiet of your garden, you're allowed. You're still writing your story, and that story matters.
Finding belonging in fleeting moments. Let's pause for a moment and take a breath together. Maybe you're someone who once had a big circle of friends. Or maybe you never really did. Maybe your days are quiet now, not because you planned it that way, but because that's just how life unfolded. And maybe, just maybe, you've been waiting for something big to happen to feel like you belong again. But what if I told you, belonging doesn't have to come from something big? It can come from something beautifully small. A shared smile with the woman in line at the pharmacy. A warm good morning to the man who walks his dog past your house every day. The kind cashier who remembers you buy the same tea every Tuesday. The nod of recognition from someone in church, even if you don't know their name. The neighbor who waves from her window when she sees you watering your plants. These aren't life-changing conversations, but they are life-affirming ones. Because in that moment, you are seen. You are real to someone. You're not invisible. And I cannot overstate how healing that is. The science behind small moments. Psychologists call this micro-connection. These are brief, simple, positive social interactions that don't require commitment, but still light up the brain with a sense of safety and inclusion. Studies from Stanford and UCLA show that even a 10-second warm interaction can lower stress hormones, boost oxytocin, the connection hormone, improve heart rate variability, a marker of emotional health, and increase subjective feelings of well-being. You don't need a deep friendship to benefit from connection. You just need a moment where someone says, "I see you." And the beautiful part? You can create these moments too. You can be the one who smiles first, who remembers a name, who writes a card, who says, "I'm glad to see you again" to the grocery clerk, who waves at the mother walking her child to school. Sometimes, when we give connection, we receive it without even asking. A true story, the thread of kindness. I once met a woman named Claire. She was 78 and living alone. She told me she hadn't had a close friend in years. But every Wednesday, she walked to the same bench in the park near her home. And every Wednesday, a young woman with a baby stroller would pass her. At first, it was just a nod, then a smile, then "Nice weather today." Then one day, the young woman sat beside her and asked, "How long have you lived in the neighborhood?" That was the beginning of something neither of them expected. Claire told me, "We never exchanged phone numbers. We never met anywhere else. But every Wednesday, I knew someone was happy to see me. And that gave me something to look forward to." That's belonging. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind, the human kind. Look around your life right now. Ask yourself, who do I already see but overlook? Where do I already go but pass through quickly? Is there a familiar face I could say hello to? Is there a kindness I could offer even silently? You don't need a big friendship to feel whole again. Start with a shared glance, a shared silence, a shared moment, and know that you're already practicing connection, quietly, gently, meaningfully. Embracing the freedom to define your own joy. If there's one thing I hope you take from everything we've shared so far, it's this. You are allowed to define joy on your own terms, not society's terms, not your family's expectations, not the outdated idea that happiness only comes from being surrounded by people all the time. No, your terms. Because this part of life, it belongs to you. And the older you get, the more you've earned something precious that many younger people still chase. Clarity, perspective, freedom. This is your chapter to design. You spent decades taking care of others. You've met deadlines, packed lunches, listened, cooked, sacrificed. You've done the hard work of life. And now, you get to ask yourself a radical question. What brings me joy? Me, right now. Maybe it's the quiet peace of solitude. Maybe it's that one deep friendship that feels like home. Maybe it's starting something new. Painting, dancing, writing, mentoring. Maybe it's waking up slowly, making your coffee just the way you like it, and feeling no pressure to be anything but present. Joy can be soft. It can be slow. It doesn't need permission or performance, and you don't need to explain it to anyone. Real freedom starts when comparison ends. The moment we stop comparing our lives to someone else's, to the woman with the big family gatherings, to the couple holding hands in the park, to the old friend who posts smiling group photos on social media, is the moment we start living our own life again. Because here's the truth. Those people, they might be looking at you with admiration too, wishing for your quiet, your clarity, your grounded spirit. Everyone carries something unseen. So instead of comparison, choose compassion for them and for yourself. What if joy is already around you? Sometimes joy hides in plain sight. The way the light filters through your kitchen window in the late afternoon. The soft weight of your favorite blanket. The comfort of a favorite song that still knows how to reach your heart. The sound of your own laughter when you surprise yourself. The small pride in doing something for yourself. Watering the plants, making the bed, taking a walk. Joy isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers. You just have to get quiet enough to hear it. One final truth I've learned. As a doctor and a witness to many lives well lived, I can tell you this without hesitation. You are not too late. You are not behind. And you are not done. You're evolving. You're healing. You are becoming still. And that, my dear friend, is something worth celebrating.
Conclusion. Your story isn't over. You're still becoming. If you've stayed with me until now, I want to say this as gently and as clearly as I can. You are still becoming. No matter your age, no matter your losses, no matter how long it's been since someone looked at you and truly saw you, you are not a closed chapter. You are not a footnote in someone else's story. You are the author of your own. And right now, right here, you're writing a new page. Not with fireworks, not with fanfare, but with quiet courage. That is what becoming looks like in this stage of life. It looks like choosing to get out of bed when your heart feels heavy. It looks like making yourself a warm meal even when no one's watching. It looks like smiling back at the stranger, calling someone first, letting yourself feel joy without apology. And maybe, most importantly, it looks like giving yourself permission to feel sad and still keep going. You've already survived so much. You've walked through grief, through change, through silence, through years that didn't go the way you planned. And yet, you're still here, still waking up, still loving in small ways, still hoping for something more, even if you barely whisper it to yourself. That, my friend, is resilience. That is becoming. A message from me to you. If no one has said it to you in a while, let me say it now. I see you. I honor you. I believe in what's still ahead for you. Whether you find your joy through rebuilding friendships, through small daily rituals, through giving to others, or simply through being gentle with yourself, know this. There is no right way to grow older, but there is a true way, and that truth lives in you. You are still capable of deep laughter, of love, yes, even now, of discovery, of change, of surprising yourself. And yes, even of being surprised by someone else, a new connection, a new friendship, a new moment of meaning. So, as you walk forward from this video, I invite you to ask yourself, what does the next sentence in my story sound like? Maybe it begins with, I reached out today, or I sat with the sun and just let myself be, or even I smiled, and for once it felt real. Whatever it is, know this. Your story isn't over. You haven't missed your chance. You are still becoming, beautifully, quietly, in your own time. And that is more than enough. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this video touched your heart, please let me know in the comments. What part spoke to you most deeply? What's one small thing you'll carry into your life today? And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to do so, because we're building a space here where stories are honored, hearts are heard, and you are never forgotten. You are not alone. You never have been, and you never will be. Let's keep becoming together.